Hey y'all, welcome back to Mirror Expressions, where you just get a little bit of everything, right? All views are alleged and consist of my thoughts, my perceptions, my opinions, and most of all, my reflections. I do, however, invite you to drop down in the comments and do the same, and let's get the conversation started. Also, drop down in the comments a mirror if you have looked in the mirror today and you are A1 with what you see looking back at you. And of course, y'all, I'm not just talking about the physical. So take whatever avenues you need to get back to what? A healthier me. All right, we're not going to wait. Let's go ahead and get straight into it. Today we are reviewing American Horror Stories, which is different, a little bit different from American Horror Story. We're reviewing season 2, episode 1, titled The Dollhouse. Okay? So we opened up and we're in Natchez, Mississippi. It's 1961. And we see this lady pulling up in her vehicle to this dollhouse factory, right? It's more like a warehouse type of thing. Y'all, let me turn this phone off so we won't have any interruptions, okay? All right. So, we see her. She's in the mirror, making sure her hair is in place, her makeup is done good. Like we ladies would do before we step out the car. And so we find out that she's there to go for an interview, right? And y'all know how I like to give people nicknames, right? So we're just going to call the man that's interviewing her the old interviewer man, because he was old. Even though we know his name was Van Wert, I think it is. So anyway, so we see her in the office with the old interviewing man, right? And he's going over her credentials, her resume, and he sees that she is very smart. She was like the top of her class. She did this, did that, and the other. And he even says that he's never seen a more qualified candidate. But then he tells her she's not right for the position, right? So, in my mind, I'm thinking like, if anything, she's overqualified for the position. Because back then in 1961, wasn't much she could do. And we do find out later in the episode that it was just for a secretarial position, right? So she had all these credentials, or, her resume was top notch, but she was not qualified for the position, right? So anyway, we see her, she get up to leave. And the old interviewer man, his assistant, comes up from behind, grabs her, and wraps this cloth like around her nose and her mouth. So, we can only assume that it was like some type of poison or some strong medicine that if she inhaled it and maybe ingested some as well, it knocked her out, right? So, then we see the camera pans over to the dollhouse that was sitting in the office, and it zooms in on this one room of the dollhouse, and we see the lady whose name we come to know is Kobe. We see her laying out on the couch coming through, right? And so, and she's surrounded by these other ladies that are in the room as well, and they're dressed as dolls, but they're like frozen. They're not moving or whatever, right? So we learned that, well, I just told you, we learned her name is Kobe, or Miss Dellum, right? And the old interviewer guy is also in the dollhouse as well. And he tells her that where she's at is at his dollhouse, and that she will be there for at least 7 days and she cannot leave, right? 7 days, give or take, she can't leave. And so, of course, she's panicking and she's like, hell no, you know. She's trying to find her way out of the dollhouse by any means possible. Like she's going to the doors, going to the windows, to no avail. And then the old interviewer guy and his assistant, they leave, right? And so she's still trying. She's still trying to get out. And so these other ladies that are in the room that are dressed like dolls, they immediately take off their masks, right? And so and their masks are like, or their face mask, I don't know what you want to call it. I'm just gonna call it mask, but it's like a doll face. And so they take it off and you can see the real faces underneath, right? So they do that and they immediately start arguing with one another, like, who is she? Why is she here? And then there's a nice one with like, don't do that. She's already scared. And the little mean was like, you know, it's already enough of us. And she wasn't here to play all the other games. And how come she gets to come in the middle of things? Right? So, the other dolls are just kind of looking while it's pretty much the nice one and the mean one going back and forth, right? And we learned that the nice one is called Harleen and the mean one is Aurelia. I think I'm saying that. Aurelia. We're just going to say Aurelia, okay? And so there are a total of 5 now, including Kobe that's just come, right? So now there are 5 when apparently there was just 4. And the way it seemed, you kind of get that they were already in the middle of something. And so now here she is coming in the middle and being considered for whatever this something is, right? So Kobe basically finally gives up as far as trying to escape. And she goes to stand in front of this particular one. And I say it's particular because when it pans out, you can see that it's shaped like a key. And I kind of just took that to mean that we're going to get a key to a lot of unanswered things or unexplained things that kind of go back to American Horror Story, right? And at the end, I kind of was like, yeah, we do. Like, that key unlocked a lot of things. Okay. So, so she's standing in front of the window. It becomes nightfall. And as she's continuing to stand there, she sees a little boy in a window of a home adjacent to the dollhouse, right? And baby, that thing, she stayed there the whole night because then by the next morning, she still stayed at the same window. And she's still standing at the same window. And so Harleen comes to her and just looks like, you need to try to eat because once things get started, they don't feed us, and it may be up to 3 days. And so basically it's like, well, what do you mean? And so now mind you, okay, Harleen's the nice one, right? So so she's kind of just, you know, basically before the game started, and it kind of put me in a sense of the Hunger Games. Like, so they sit down and she's just like, she starts to, so they sit down, she starts, sorry y'all. So Harleen starts to fill Kobe in on what the deal is, what the games are, right? And so basically, they're the old interviewer guy is trying to find a new mom for his son, which was the boy that Kobe saw standing in the window, right? And so Kobe's like, well, what happened to the mom? And so Harleen tells her that, well, the story that is actually told is that basically the lady drowned in an accidental drowning. But the truth be told is that the mom was not satisfied with what the old interviewer guy was putting down. He wasn't laying it down like he thought he was. So she went out and got her stallion. Now, that's in the words of them. She got her stallion right. And so they was getting it in. They was doing the do. And the old interviewer guy, man, and walks in on him, pisses him off, right? So he basically, like, you see all the tasers up and through. So he tases them and then throws both of them down this old well that had not been used to leave them there to die. All right. So, so that's really what happened to the boy's mom. So now he's trying to find a new mom for the boy. So we hear this bell ringing, right? And it's signaling the start of the games. So Harleen lets Kobe know that she needs to choose a costume. Basically, what doll she's going to be, right? Because they always dress as the same type of doll. Like Aurelia, the mean one, she was a maid. Kobe, she decides to be a clown. Faye, which was one of the other ones, she's dressed as like in a wedding dress. Now Harleen was just the nice one. I don't know what you would call her. She was kind of dressed in, I don't know. She nothing spectacular. She had like or defining. She had like this blue-green dress on. And then I think the other one was Bunny. And she kind of reminded me of like I don't know. I don't know what she reminded me of either. But anyway, so she tells her basically that she needs to choose what kind of doll she's going to be. And so, like I said, Kobe, she chose to be a clown, right? And so she tells her there are 2 rules. Don't move and don't speak unless spoken to, right? So the old interviewer man guy walks in with Otis. Now, Otis is the son. And he leaves Otis and the assistant. And so Otis is there to play because it's really Otis's dollhouse. So Otis is there to play, right? And so Otis immediately walks up to Kobe. And Kobe is like just staring. You could tell she's scared by her eyes because we can still see her eyes. And so, oh, y'all, that little boy Otis, he has the smartest mouth. That little boy, I just want to take him and pop him in his mouth. But yeah, he's a real smart aleck. So he basically is down to her talking about don't nobody like clowns and, you know. And then so she tells him, well, I can also do tricks. Because he threatened her with just saying that the assistant man could go and just get rid of her now because he don't like clowns. So Kobe was like, well, I can do tricks. And this little smart ass had to say, you know, don't nobody like magicians just as much as they don't like clowns, you know. And so then as the little boy's about to tell the assistant to go and get rid of Kobe, there was this little toy car or truck on the floor. And Kobe makes it move without touching it or having a little boy touch it. So, of course, the little boy's like, well, how do you do that? And he demands for her to do it again. And at first, Kobe was like, no. And so he's like, oh, you're going to do it again, basically, if you want to live. So, of course, this frightens Kobe. And after a while, we see the car go again. Okay? So, that ends the game 1, I'll say. And so we see all the dolls, all 5 of them, kind of up in their bedrooms talking. And so Aurelia the main one, I was gonna say the main one. She comes in and she's just like, how did you make that car move? You know? And so Kobe is just like, oh, my uncle was a magician and he showed me how to do a couple of tricks. And so Aurelia, the main one, was just like, something ain't right with that. I know you just trying to come in and show us up, and you know, and the nice one, she's kind of like, why are you saying that? Like, what do you mean? So in the midst of all that, the bell rings again, right? So they all have to come downstairs and they're all seated around this table. And so the old man, the old interviewer man, he's giving them a task. And the task is to set the table. Because on the table, you just see like a bunch of dishes and a bunch of dinnerware and napkins. And so he tells them they have 1 minute to set the table correctly according to this imaginary dish that he says is going to be prepared. And that for everything they do wrong, they get a point. And whoever has the most points at the end of the task is basically discarded. That's the word he used, discarded. Okay, so they go through it, and Kobe, she ended up with a lot of points. So you're thinking it's gonna be her. But then poor Faye, she was the one, he just went ballistic on her. And so she was immediately tased and thrown down the well, right? And Aurelia, or the main one, let me just say the main one. Let me start trying to pronounce their name. So the main one is basically like good riddance, because there's one less person that she's competing with to become the boy's mom, right? Oh, she mean. So we see that Kobe is making friends with the little boy Otis, right? Because now he's intrigued that she can do these things like move the car. So he tells her that he hopes that she's the one that gets to be his mom. And so she says to the little boy, I promise that I will be your mom if you tell your dad to let all the other dolls go free, right? So the little boy's like, okay. And so one night he approaches his dad about it. But then he ends up like chickening out, not telling his dad, you know, that he's chosen one and he wants the other dolls to be left free, right? Okay. So then we see them going to their next challenge. The next challenge consisted of them ironing a shirt using a homemade starch that they had to make themselves from scratch, and then folding said shirt. And this was like one of those men's collar button down shirts, right? So they were given 3 minutes to complete this task, and it had to have been done to his liking, folds, no creases, right? So when, you know, he went to one, she made some mistakes. I think he said she had too much lavender. Kobe was next. Kobe, he said that she had so much starch in this shirt that it could get up and walk away. So then he unfolds her shirt, and he sees that she also scorched the shirt. So he takes her hand, places it down on the ironing board, and then puts the iron on top of her hand. And she dare not say a mumbling word, right? Or she knew that was going to be it for her, right? But he went on to the next person. And Aurelia just passing all these like with flying colors. She passed the one with the dinner, setting the table. She passed that perfectly. She passed this perfectly. Like he had nothing bad to say about her either time. So then he gets to the last one. And he tells that doll that she could smell, that her shirt smelled like a whorehouse. Oh my gosh, right? Oh goodness. So he's just like pissed, and she basically is stabbed right then and there before she is thrown down the well. Like it wasn't no tasing, it was like literally just stabbing her over and over, and then she was thrown down the well. They then learned that their final challenge would be the next day. So of course now they're all scared because it's come down to it's gonna be just one winner, right? So in their fear, we see Kobe and Harleen trying to make an escape plan, while the mean one is making a plan to kill Kobe, right? So Kobe's plan included them using their normal doll faces, but on a mannequin, right? So just giving the appearance that it's really them because they can't move anyway, right? So Kobe had hers set up, and then here come the mean one. She had found a screwdriver, and she came up behind the clown doll and started stabbing it in his back. Them backstabbers, I'm telling you. But only to find out it was not Kobe anyway. It was just the mannequin, right? So the next day, when the old man, interviewer man, and his assistant come, the ladies make an escape. They got their doll set up, and so the old interviewer guy and the assistant are walking toward the mannequins, which are dressed like the dolls. And while they do that, the ladies, Kobe uses her skill to unlock the door and open it, and then the three ladies, they escape. So they're going forward, and then here come Kobe. Wait, we gotta go back for Otis. Oh, now Otis, mind you, Otis is the little boy, right? And the other two was like, man, you crazy. So of course the old mean one, she wasn't the damn one on. She started going. And then the nice one, Harleen, was like, I'm so scared, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And so she follows after the mean one. So Kobe, she goes to the adjacent house, sneaks in and starts looking for the little boy Otis, right? So she eventually finds him and tries to convince him to leave with her, only for the little boy to pick up this device. It saves her and knocks her out. Meanwhile, the mean one and Harleen, now they done made it out to the woods, right? So they're running. And then Harleen is telling the mean one just to wait on me. And y'all, we see the little mean one. But when I tell you that thing was mean, she was mean. We see her with this big old boulder in her hand because Harleen had tripped, right? So Harleen laying out in the ground, and she come with this boulder in her hands and is about to smash Harleen with it because she's like, baby, you too loud and you too slow. And before she could get that thing, drop that boulder on that woman, the assistant shoots her dead in the forehead, just straight in the middle of the forehead. And then we can only assume that Harleen is gone too, right? Right? So then we see Kobe. She is laid out on his table, coming through, and she's tied up. She's tied up, her hands up this way, her legs at the bottom. That she's tied at her hands and her feet, right? And so the old interviewer guy and Otis are standing around, and the assistant was there too. The assistant was working the machine. So there was this big machine above her, right? And the machine was like a mold of a doll. And so they were about to make her into a real live porcelain doll. So the old interviewer guy, he's basically like, don't worry about it. It will only hurt for a little bit. And he also lets her know that he was aware of their escape plan the whole time, because he keeps like eavesdropping devices inside the doll's head. So he was like, "Wow, I didn't know your entire plan. I knew enough of it, basically to stop and to see what was going to go down." So basically, he was just like, he let it happen to see who was going to go back for his son. So he in turn tells her that she is the winner because she was the one that came back and tried to save his son. Right? And so because she won, she gets to now be his mommy. But his mommy is going to look just like this doll that he carries around, this porcelain doll that he carries around. And so, of course, she's screaming or whatever, and all we see is this mold shutting down on her. And next thing we know, they're back in the dollhouse having a tea party. Well, the old interviewer guy and Otis are having a tea party, and she is serving them. And so we see her body, her face is all porcelain. They made her into a porcelain doll. So just as she's about to, she serves them, and just as they're about to drink the tea, because he's like, "This is my favorite," he meaning the old interviewer guy, "This is my favorite part of the day." We see his teacup smash up against the ceiling, and in walks two witches, right? So now we're getting Coven tied in, right, from American Horror Story, right? And so they cast a spell on the assistant and on the old interviewer guy, right? And they basically tell Colby that she's one of them. And so they're coming to rescue her, and they break her out of that porcelain shell. And so they're going to take her with her. Take her with them. But before they do, she turns to she tries to say the little boy again, y'all. So she turns to Otis and was just like, "I promised I was going to be your mommy. I'm not going to, backtrack on that." And so she takes the little boy with them. And then we see them at the Coven down in New Orleans, right? And so we get a couple of tie-ins to the Coven from this, like with that. And also, she tells him that if anybody ever asks, that you've been here from birth, just like your father and your father's father. And then she asks the little boy, "Well, what is your middle name?" And he says Spalding. And so she's like, "Good, we're going to go by Spalding." And so we get all those different tie-ins, right? And then before it fades out, we see let me see. I'm trying to see. Oh, I know what else. Before they fade out, we see, we get to see a young Myrtle come out and grab his hand, and then they walk in together like two little perfect playmates at this point. But of course, we all know how it goes down in the Coven, right? So anyway, I think all in all, it was a pretty good season opener. So I'm looking forward to episode 2 to see what that one's gonna be about, and to review that one as well. So y'all, I will catch y'all on the flip side. I appreciate you all, and as usual, I'm gonna pray for you. You pray for me, and what? That's right. Bye.